Hello everybody, it's me Hattie and I'm back with my film series, and this time we are going to build Hogwarts. Now, I got a lot of requests of people that were asking me whether I was going to build this or not. Of course I was going to build this. I was just trying to figure out how I was going to build this because this is a humongous building. I had to look at a lot of floor plans. I was really thinking about the rooms that I could include because I knew that I couldn't include it all. So just a quick disclaimer for the people that really want to see the official Hogwarts and stuff, this is my interpretation of it. I took as many ideas from the Hogwarts build that I saw, the layout of it and things online, and here I am doing it. So I took a lot of ideas from the first film as well. I was watching the film all the way through. I was looking at the build. I wasn't really focusing on the characters at all at this point because I love Harry Potter. Of course, I've watched the film many times, but Hogwarts was definitely the main bit that I was focusing on whilst I was watching it. But anyway, at this point, I was trying to get the floor plan right. This was the main feature of this whole build. I did it a little bit backwards actually, because what I did was I built the rooms, and then the actual build turned out to look okay because I wanted to make sure that it did look as accurate as it possibly could. I have no idea how the interior is going to look on this build yet. I'm not even thinking about it. It's going to look humongous. I think I'm in two mindsets for the interior, whether to do it as a residential house or to do it as a communal lot, and maybe download the mod Get to School, I think, because a lot of people are using that at the moment, and I might actually have it as a school. I don't know, but any suggestions are of course welcome. Would you like to see it as a house? Would you like to see it as a school? Just let me know in the comments. But anyway, at this point I was trying to do the garden because the gardens in Hogwarts are the main features of the build. And I really wanted to include two. I was pretty set on that. Something that I definitely was going to leave out though was the Quidditch pitch, because I had bigger ideas for the garden. There wasn't a lot of garden to go around, unfortunately. I didn't have a lot of space to use, so I really had to be careful with the places that I used, because I wanted to put in the greenhouses, because in the Harry Potter films and the books there's some greenhouses and things like that. So I was very careful with the garden. I was very stingy with what I actually put in this build because I wanted to make sure that it was just right, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to make it as accurate as I could. And I love the films so much, so I wanted to be as accurate as I could be. I've actually been to the Disney Orlando Hogwarts, and that was really interesting to see. So I think maybe a lot of my ideas, a lot of my accuracy probably came from that, because I wanted to make it look like that as much as possible. And of course I did have to leave some things out. Something that I did struggle with was the layering, because I wanted to have the build as tall as it possibly could be, but at the same time I was really thinking about the fact that I wanted to have it on a ledge of some sort, because the actual Hogwarts is built on a cliff's edge, kind of, anyway. But I thought with it being in the Bluffs, which is the area of The Sims 4 in Windenburg, it is absolutely perfect. In fact, you'll have probably seen by the thumbnail how good it actually looks in the Bluffs. I was super happy with that, and that's what I was thinking. At this point I was building the second floor. The second floor was just kind of a copy of the first floor really. It was just a matter of going around and just making sure that I didn't leave anything out. The second floor was very difficult to find a floor plan of. In fact, I couldn't find one at all. I was really trying to find one and trying to think about the rooms that would be upstairs, but I think I'm just gonna have to wing it. I'm actually very lucky because my sister is a very hardcore Harry Potter fan. She's read all the books. She can recite the whole books back to me if I wanted her to, and she really did help me out a lot with this because she knows everything about the films and the books. I've only read the first book and maybe just a couple of pages into it as well, because I'm not a big reader, but I have watched the films, and I have actually done a test online. I did a test online, which house am I in? And my result was Slytherin. But it would be really interesting to know what everybody's house would be, and if you do want to take the test, then I'm going to leave the links below and let me know which house you would fit into. But anyway, at this point I was trying to move on a little bit to the third floor. It was very tricky. I was having to make the rooms myself, and I was actually finding it very difficult to join the rooms together, because sometimes in The Sims 4 isn't particularly great at recognizing when the rooms are all connected and there's no missing walls, and I had to basically go all the way around and make the rooms complete, and so that it would register them as inside. That meant that I had to really put down the paving. I'm not sure if that's the word. Whatever I was doing, I was really just trying to join all the rooms together at this point. I put all the walls on tall as well. I wanted the walls to be really, really super tall for this build because Hogwarts it's absolutely ginormous, and that is one of the things that I love about Hogwarts. One of the other things I love about Hogwarts is the roofing. I really enjoy putting the roofing on this plot, which you'll see in a little bit, but I did struggle with the roofing because I couldn't have it as tall as I wanted it to be. In fact, the roofing on Hogwarts itself is super tall. It's almost taller than the building itself. It's really, really crazy in terms of how tall it is. But anyway, at this point I was trying to figure out the third floor, which was very, very difficult because I actually want a chamber of secrets, is it? I'm not sure. When Harry's looking at the mirror, I'm completely clueless and I probably got it completely wrong, but I wanted that for the third floor because that's where I think that it would be. It would be right on the top, and I wanted to include that somewhere, and I was trying to create some secret rooms because I definitely want that in Hogwarts, and I think the interior will be amazing for this build. It will be really fun for me to decorate. I'm expecting that it will be anyway, so I'm looking forward to it. But anyway, I was then moving on to the area behind Hogwarts, which I guess would be more of the teachers' quarters, the places where the teachers would live. I'm not exactly sure, but it's the area which you don't really see in the film. It's just kind of behind and we don't really get to see inside it. But it also could be a place for the students to have as their boarding place. I'm not exactly sure. One thing that I definitely will be including, or at least I will try to include as many as I can, are the common rooms for all the houses. I really, really want to be able to do that, and I'll try and make a lot of room for that. But anyway, this was the point where I was trying to make sure that this room here was accurate, because it was actually very, very difficult to make it completely symmetrical all the way down because it's such a big room. It's like an octagonal room, I think. I mean, it's going super quick, so I can hardly tell. I can't count how quickly it's going. But anyway, I was trying to do that. So it was kind of difficult because I was trying to make it as even as possible. And it wasn't even, and I was trying to figure out why. So a lot of this was trying to fix my errors. I was trying to fix this part, but it wasn't going very well. But I did figure it out in the end. I actually made the top too big. I think the top wasn't right, and when I fixed it, it felt a lot better. I really, really get irritated by things like that. So I needed to make sure that it was perfect before I moved on to anything else, which did actually require me doing the whole area again, which wasn't too bad actually, wasn't too bad. I think that it actually looks better now that I've redone it, and I was happy with that. Anyway, this was the front entrance. This was the part where I was trying to really make sure that I followed the picture and I followed the whole beauty about Hogwarts, which was the fact that it has these gorgeous layers and it's actually supposed to be on a cliff. What I wanted to do though is I wanted to give the fear factor of this building, because I think something that is amazing about Hogwarts as well is it can look a little bit frightening. It can look a little bit unsafe, especially with the surroundings, and it kind of shocked me when I was watching the films when I was really young, because when I was watching the films when they first came out, I think I was about 7, I'm not sure, but when I was watching them I realised that it kind of frightened me a bit. I mean, looking at the surroundings of Hogwarts, the fact that it would be so easy to fall off the bridge or so easy to fall off the staircases and the hallway as you enter it. So I wanted to create that for this build. I was really thinking about how I could do it, and I was trying at this point to give that kind of fear factor and try and make it look like it is on a cliff's edge, even though it's kind of difficult to do that. If we did have more layers, then I would have definitely done the cliff on the first floor and made it look a lot more accurate, but it was really difficult to do that with what we have in The Sims 4. And also one of the things that I did struggle with was not being able to have circular rooms. I would have really loved to have had circular rooms in this build, but I had to settle for octagonal, which wasn't a big deal, I don't think, and it still looks pretty nice. It's as accurate as I could make it, so yeah, I was happy with that. This is the point when I was adding the roofing in. What I really like about this build is the fact that the roofing is quite different all around it, and I like that. I like the fact that the wall is on the left there, if you can see it. It kind of reminded me of the Quidditch pitch, and I thought that it looked quite nice. It was quite a nice thing to put in there, and I was really happy with that. I was also trying to make the roofing as high as I could. That was the maximum height that I could have for it. Of course, I would have it higher if I could, but hey, I can't have everything. So yeah, couldn't have that, unfortunately. I was also thinking about the picture. That's what I was really looking at this precise moment. I did notice that on the picture there was a lot of different places where you could basically walk across, and you could have it as like a kind of pathway, but it would be on stilts, I guess. Kind of stilts, yeah, I'm gonna say that. So you'll be seeing a lot of that in this build. I was trying to recreate that effect here. Even though it couldn't be a straight stilt, it could be a curved one, and it could look a little bit similar. So that's what I was trying to do here. I was also trying to create some places that I could create the fear factor and that the Sims could walk across, because I was thinking to myself that even though it is a humongous build, it would actually save me a lot of space as well, and that way that I wouldn't clog up the interior and it wouldn't be too big to play, because I wanted it to look humongous, but I did actually want it to be a playable build, which I really like to do with my mansions and things. I like to make them as playable as possible, so that was a really big part of this whole thing, was making it playable, making it big, but making it look like it's actually bigger than it really is. So that's what I was doing. So you will notice that when you do download it, or if and when, you will notice that there are a lot of pathways and things throughout the build, because I was trying to save a lot of space inside. So that's what I was doing. At this point, I was trying to make sure that the build wasn't too boxy, and I was trying to split it up a bit to make it look a little bit separate in some places and make it look like completely different buildings all put into one, because sometimes castles can have that effect, and I think that with Hogwarts it definitely does give that effect. It gives the effect of the fact that it's all different things into one, and that's really good for a school like this, because you'd have all the different classrooms, different places separate, you'd have it all completely different to one another, and that would be a really nice thing to add. And I thought for this build it would be really nice if I did that, and it also gave me the space for the downstairs, and it made sure that I could really have a downstairs garden, and it could be a nice garden, it could be a really big one, and it could have some interesting things overlooking it, like some of these pathways that were on stilts, and it could look pretty good. So that's what I was trying to do here. It was very difficult to follow this path all the way through and make sure that it did have the concrete down. It was very difficult though, it was really difficult. I did struggle doing that throughout this build. I struggled making everything into rooms. That was the major struggle of this whole build. I wasn't really worried about building it. It was mainly just kind of getting everything to fit together, and the rooms itself, making the rooms into the shapes they should be, was one of the main problems that I did have. But anyway, so at this point I was trying to focus on the front area. I was thinking to myself, how would I imagine the front area to be? And I did actually manage to find some photos of the front area, but the front isn't exactly, I suppose, an eye catcher. It's quite plain at the front compared to the rest of it. That's what I thought as well. It's quite a flat front. It's not really staggered. It hasn't got any castle bits or anything. And the main front feature that I had to leave out, unfortunately, was the kind of front bit which you enter through the pathway, which is kind of like an archway. I think it's got some banners on there of Hogwarts and things, but I had to leave it out because I just couldn't fit it on this build. I was then just readjusting the general parts. It's kind of given me a headache a little bit seeing how quickly I was going, because I was building so quickly. I mean, I sped it up, but I was really fast at doing this actually. This was probably, I'm gonna guess, about 2 hours in, which isn't actually surprisingly long for a build like this. I think a build like this is a humongous build to obviously build, and I would expect that it would take a lot longer because it's the biggest one that I've ever built on The Sims 4. I've never built another build this big, and yeah, I was expecting it would take a lot longer, but it actually didn't. But anyway, I was then just readjusting the back areas because I didn't want them to be at all neglected, and I wanted to have some outdoor space as well. I wanted some places that I could have the Sims sitting down, they could practice some art and have the really amazing views of the bluffs and of the rest of Hogwarts. So I was thinking a lot about that. But I think at this point everything's becoming a little bit more defined and you can start seeing where everything kind of fits in. And I think originally it was my image, but I'm kind of hoping that you'll be able to see at this point where everything fits in. And I was just putting the roofing on the last parts of it. The roofing wasn't exact at this point, but I just wanted something there to kind of remind me where everything was. I think that this was a main part of the build. This was probably the most important, I'm going to say 30 minutes of building, because it was reminding myself constantly on where everything was supposed to fit in and where everything was supposed to go. So that played a humongous part in this whole build. I was just trying to think back to ideas. I was trying to keep to the layout, the floor plan as much as I possibly could, and I was happy with that. But at this point I'd moved on to the back of the build, and I don't think that there are many pictures of the back of Hogwarts, or at least I couldn't find any, so I really did have to improvise this bit completely. I had to really make it up from scratch because I just couldn't find anything, and I had to really just use my imagination on that part and just make it look nice and fitting with the rest of the build. But then I was on to the roofing again. I was then doing the little bits that I'd kind of forgotten about. There was a lot of roofing to go around on this build. In fact, I don't think I've ever used this much roofing ever. I really haven't. There was so many roofs on this, but I think that that's what really makes Hogwarts, is the amount of roofing it has. And I think that I did want to create that effect, so I was pretty happy with that. I did try to keep to the part of the fact that it does have a humongous tower here, which I was just putting the roofing on. I thought that that was pretty important to keep with the build, so I kind of wanted that being a little bit higher than everything else, so you'll probably see that as well. And then I was back to the front view of the build. So at this point I was trying to add the decorations to the roofs because I wanted them to look a little bit bigger and, well, taller really. So I was trying to add some pieces that we got with the Sims 4 Get Together expansion pack, and I was trying to add them on top of the towers to give the effect that they look a little bit bigger than they did. And I thought that that was quite a nice touch because it did look a little bit taller, and I was pretty happy with that. But of course the biggest one that I used was for the part that's supposed to be the biggest. So I think it's called the clock tower, but I'm not exactly sure. But I enlarged the piece for that quite a lot, so you'll see that. I was also adding some mud to the parts of the basement, which we can see. And if you're wondering how I got rid of the basement, because that is probably a question which I'd definitely be wondering if I'd never seen that before, because I don't think a lot of people do use that. You basically go underneath the basement, you go up a level, and then you click the cross and it should delete the floor. I'll probably do it in a tutorial at some point though, if you do want to see it, because I think that some people are pretty keen on me doing tutorials for this stuff, so I will try that out at some point. But I was then painting the build. It's about time, isn't it? I probably should have painted the build quite a while ago, but here we are painting the build. I didn't actually decide on this colour though. I went with a darker colour because I wanted Hogwarts to really stand out, and I thought the darker colour looked a little bit better than the paler colour. I was on to the roof part though. I was at this point going to start colouring in the roof. I couldn't decide whether I wanted to go with the exact roof of Hogwarts or the most similar roof, which would be the silvery one that we're looking at now. But I did actually change my mind and I went with a darker roof in the end because I wanted it to stand out a bit and I wanted to exaggerate Hogwarts more than anything. And that is a pretty bold statement, I know, but I didn't want to stick with exactly what we saw in the pictures, which was in the daytime a very cream build. I wanted something that would really stand out at night, and it could look quite dark, quite gloomy, but quite beautiful in the daytime. So that's what I was thinking. I was adding some rocks around this area, even though I do actually delete those rocks and I put them all a floor down, I think. But I was putting them around anyway so that you can really get to the effect that there are rocks there and it can look pretty nice to that extent, I think. So I was happy with that, and I put a lot of rocks around this build. I really wanted to give the effect that they were there, and I was pretty happy with that. But what I was doing as well is I was carving out the build, which was really important to me. I was trying to get rid of some of this basement area, and I was trying to give a bigger rock effect because I really wanted it to show up on the Sims 4 gallery photo. It's not on the gallery yet, but it should be. It should be as soon as I've done the interior for the build. So when you see the interior build for the video, then you will know when it's on the Sims 4 gallery, and of course there'll be a link in the description when it is. But anyway, I was just piling up the rocks here. I wanted it to look like a little bit of a rock display, and even though it's not exactly how the rocks do look at Hogwarts, I really did have to improvise with that bit because the rocks are straight down and we don't have any rocks that go straight down, so it does look a little bit bumpier, but hey, we can't have everything, so that's what I couldn't have. But anyway, I was painting it all grey at this point because I thought that the grey looked absolutely gorgeous, and I haven't actually used the grey brick in a very long time, so I thought that for this build it would look really, really perfect, so that's what I did. I painted the roofing black because I thought that it just looked a little bit better black, but of course if you think it looks better in the silver then you can just change it back if you want. It's completely up to you what you want to do, but I just thought that it gave a really witchy effect, and I liked the fact that the tiles were a bit higgledy-piggledy, and I liked the fact that it looked like it'd been really aged and it looked old, so I thought that would be quite nice for roofing, so I left that in. Unfortunately, when I started to add the panelling around the roofing, all the roof decorations started to disappear, which I wasn't happy with. So what I was doing is I was leaving them in because I was then just going back and I was re-adding them, which I was pretty happy with. And I was then just putting in more decorations. I was trying to make this top area look a bit like a witch's hat, which I think was quite a nice look to it. I didn't see that coming, and it's definitely not in the official Hogwarts, but hey, I thought it looked pretty good, and it does look a little bit like a witch's hat, so I was quite happy with that. But anyway, I was adding some more paneling around these areas here. It took quite a while, but I didn't want to leave anything out of this video so that you can see absolutely everything from start to finish. So I thought this was quite a big thing to put in because this was the part which really, really gave that bit of extra depth to the build, and it made it look like it was a little bit grander and a bit nicer than I think it does. So this was the paneling that I decided on, and I know that it's quite different to Hogwarts itself, but I think that it's better than just having it completely plain, and it does give an effect of the fact that it has really, really been styled, and it looks like it's got a lot of detail in it, and I really like it for this build, so I left that on. I also put some paneling around the middle of the build, but you'll only see that probably at the end because that's just when I happen to do it. I was changing the colour of the fences because I just thought that it looked a little bit nicer having it a darker colour, and it went with the build. So that's what I was doing at this point. I was also thinking about the rocks. I was thinking about how I was going to redo them. I really did decide at this point that I was going to make it a bit bigger, and I was also going to add some water around it because I thought that a moat would be absolutely perfect. Just for that bit more of the fear factor thing, I thought a moat would be amazing for Hogwarts. I'm not exactly sure if there is a moat, if there is water in the official Hogwarts layout. I mean, I'm not exactly sure, but I think that it would look really nice in this build and it would really give the scare factor, so that's what I was thinking as well. I did change the colour. I changed the colour to a really muddy colour because I wanted it to fit in. I wanted it to look natural. I didn't want it to look at all like a pool or like it had been really styled or anything, so I left it like that, and I was pretty happy with that. What I was doing as well is I was rearranging the rocks here. I liked this rock. I think it looked a little bit more accurate to the one that you see in the film, or if you go to Disney Orlando like I did, then you will see this rock there, I guess. A little bit like it anyway. But yeah, I did. I saw it there and it was really interesting. It was a really interesting place to visit actually. I really enjoyed it there. I'm not exactly sure, but I can't remember who told me this, but I don't know if they actually are, but I heard that they were making the whole castle actually open to everybody, and you could actually go and see all the rooms inside. They were going to build on it or something. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. But I went there about 4 years ago now, and I went back a year ago, and it had changed in the space of 3 years, and it was crazy how much that the place had changed. They'd added so much, and it looked absolutely amazing. In fact, what I really like about Disney Orlando, the Hogwarts there, is the fact that It's very eye-catching, so the queues are very long to get on any rides, and I really like the fact that even though you're waiting for like 2 or 3 hours sometimes, you can still look at everything, and there's things for everybody to do, like even when you're at the theme park, even when you're looking around the rides and stuff, you can pretty much still see the whole of the beauty of it, and it's really, really amazing. So that's what I liked. I think that I will do maybe a mini let's play in this build. I'm probably going to get asked a lot as well, like, will you do let's play? Will you do one in this build? I think I will. I think I'll have to. Some way or another, I will definitely incorporate Hogwarts into a let's play that I'll be doing in the future, because I really, really like the kind of effects and stuff of like being in a magical place. I think that I will add some ghosts and things to it as well, and I'll have like the official ghosts that they have in Hogwarts, because there are official ones, of course, and I will definitely have Peeves there. Of course I will, because I love Peeves to bits. He's my favourite. I just think he is amazing. I actually found out about Peeves from the game. I downloaded a game ages ago, but I actually bought it, but I was very young, and when I was playing it, and I actually had it, and it was basically a tour of Hogwarts at the same time as I was playing Harry Potter. It was a PC game, and I really, really loved it. It was around the same time as I was really into The Sims as well, so I was probably about 9 or 10, I guess, when I first became like really into The Sims, and I was playing this game and I absolutely loved it, and that's when I first found out about Peeves, because he was one of the characters in it, and he was so scary. I used to almost be in tears at the screen every time he came on, and I'd have to ask my sister to play it for me because I just couldn't even face it. I was too frightened, and I needed somebody else to do the levels for me. But it was a really amazing game, and I actually learned a lot from that game. I was trying to find the game again and try and put it on my computer, but I couldn't find it, unfortunately. But I think that it would have been really helpful for kind of discovering Hogwarts and getting a look on it close up. So I don't know, maybe I'll do that at some point. Maybe I'll try and come back to Hogwarts after I've replayed this game, and yeah, I'll try my best. But anyway, I was putting some pillars in. The pillars were a humongously main feature of this build. I was trying to add a lot because I wanted to give the effect of the fact that it looked a little bit 3D, of course, even though it is on The Sims, because it's supposed to have that effect. But I think it just kind of made it pop a bit. It made it have a bit more detail, and I think for the gallery photo, it would look a bit nicer, just having kind of pillars here. And I don't think that it really did look like they were pillars. It kind of looked like they were corners of the buildings, which I really love because it looks quite old and it looks like it's been styled that way, which I really like. It's really strange though, looking at the build without hardly any windows. It's very hard. I wouldn't like to live here at this point. It would be pretty empty, quite gloomy with only one door and hardly any windows. But yes, anyway, so the pillars carried on. The pillar legacy was still happening at this point. I was really trying to fit every single pillar into this build I could possibly fit in. I was trying not to miss any corners as well, because if I'd missed anything, and if I found out about it later on, I would have been absolutely gutted. I would have been really upset, because sometimes that happens. In fact, sometimes I do make mistakes on my bigger builds and I get picked up about it later on. So I try and make as few as possible, but of course sometimes it's not always the best solution to kind of be too focused about making mistakes on my builds, because sometimes it just happens and it's difficult to pick up absolutely everything when you're working on a build for this long. In fact, sometimes I leave really stupid things out. In fact, on one of my earlier builds, and I will admit this, I've never admitted this before, but on my Poseidon's Palace build, which I didn't share on YouTube, but I just did for a bit of fun before I started up YouTube, so this was before 4 months ago, I actually left a curtain rail hanging in between two of the walls, which might not seem like a big deal to everybody else, but it is really irritating for me because I can see it on the gallery photo, and also it got favorited by Maxis. So I was thinking, oh no, like I can't even take it off the gallery now because, it got favorited, and no, it was just the wrong one. But of course I'm really grateful that they saw it, but you know, accidents happen and it just happens. I think accidents happen less though in my builds. I think that now I've been building for quite a long time, I think it kind of gets less like as I start building more and more, because what happens is when I start to get quicker at building, what happens is I'll make less mistakes anyway, because what will happen is I'll be faster and that will leave me less room for errors. So I guess that would be a plus. But anyway, so I was just putting in the last windows, or should I say most of the windows. I don't know why I said last there, but there was a lot of windows to go around at this point. I was trying to put in the dark brown ones because I thought that they looked particularly nice on this build. I thought that they were the only ones that really stood out to me as well. They were the ones that really kind of were eye-catching for me. So I really liked them. I also loved those new windows that you get with the Winterberg Get Together expansion pack. That is a really big mouthful, isn't it? I mean, they love doing that with stuff, don't they? I mean, the cheats and the game packs, the expansion packs and stuff. In fact, one of the cheats, I don't know if anybody else knows this cheat. Well, in fact, of course, a lot of people will know this cheat. But I mean, if you don't build, then you probably won't know it. But the cheat is ignore gameplay unlocks entitlement. Now, that is a big thing to write down. They really love doing that, so I don't know why, but they do. So yeah, but so is the Sims 4 Get Together expansion pack. Yes, that is a big thing. But yeah, they do have amazing windows for that, so I was trying to incorporate those in a lot because I think that Winterberg in general really did fit in with Hogwarts. Strangely, I think that this was a perfect plot to build on. In fact, if you're wondering what plot I used, it was the 64x64, of course, in Winterberg, and it was the one on the bluffs. So I don't know if I mentioned that really early on, but if you're wondering how it would look like it does right now on my game, on your game, then you could just put it on that plot and hopefully it would look quite nice like it looks now, I guess. So anyway, I was trying to put the last windows round. I was slowly losing faith at this point. I was thinking to myself, this is so many windows. I wonder how many windows Hogwarts itself is actually supposed to have. I'm not actually sure. I haven't actually visited the Hogwarts in England yet, or I suppose the kind of behind the scenes look on Hogwarts and Harry Potter in general. I mean, everything from like the Dursley's house to I think Malfoy Mansion. I'm not sure if that's there. They definitely have the bus there. I don't know what else they have there, but they have a lot of different things that's it's like a museum, I guess, but I haven't been yet, and it's really strange because where I used to live in England, I used to live about 2 or 3 hours away from London, so not actually that far. So yeah, I mean, I had no excuse really, but I think I will go back. I'll try and take my sister back at some point and I'll go through it with her because she is an absolute mastermind when it comes to Harry Potter. She knows everything that goes on. She can recite pages back to me if I want her to because she just knows it absolutely back to front. So that is what she likes to do. But anyway, I was putting in some last minute pillars at this point. I was almost finished with the exterior at this point, so that was pretty good. But anyway, I was just kind of going back and forth and trying to make sure that everything looked pretty nice. I think at this point as well, I'd had about a week break because I needed a kind of like week off, I think, from Hogwarts, because that is always helpful as well. If you're really ever stuck on a build, if you're a builder like myself, then what I would honestly say is take a break. Even if it's a day, if it's a week, then just go back to it because it gives you a clearer look on the build itself, and it means that you can have clearer ideas when you go back to it and you can think about what you really value in the build and what you want to keep, what you don't want to keep. And it just makes life so much easier. So sometimes I do that when I'm really stuck, and that's what I did for Hogwarts, because it wasn't so much that I was stuck because I could carry on, but I just didn't want to make any more errors at this point. I didn't make any errors, I don't think, but I say any more, I just didn't want to make any, to be honest. So I thought that it was a good stopping point to just kind of stop for a week, give myself a break, and then go back to it. So that's probably why you would have seen a picture of Hogwarts on Twitter if you follow me, and then you would have seen probably not much for like a couple of days after that. But then I was just adding those good old terrain tools. Is it terrain or terrain? I am just not sure, but either way, I was adding them. I was adding a lot of soil as well because I thought that soil went really well with that whole mud bath that was going on in the middle of Hogwarts. I just loved it to bits, so I was very happy with adding that. I think that it looked really nice. What I decided to do though was I decided to expand the whole basement area. So I really did have a whole moat going around the outside, which I definitely think was a good look. And I was happy with it. So that's what I did. I was also just putting some rocks there, which you'll see in a moment. But I was trying to put some water there because I wanted it to go with the rest of the build. I didn't want to leave any water out. I didn't want to really forget about that. And I wanted to keep the whole moat style. So I thought that would be pretty good for the outside. What I did do as well is I went back after a little bit and I did actually change those archways that you'll see under the stairs, and I did just go with the pillars, and I tried not to make the pillars even. In fact, if you'd have seen the pillars not being even at any point, that was done purposefully because I didn't want them to be. I wanted to give the effect that it's kind of been a bit broken down and it looks a little bit rickety in some places. So there's some places that you probably wouldn't want to cross the bridge at all. You probably just want to skip that bridge completely and probably just walk around Hogwarts to find a safe entrance. But no, I did want to create that, and that's what I was doing for some of this. So you'll see that if it does come up, and if you're wondering why, that is the reason for it. But anyway, at this point I was trying to get rid of some of this basement area as well because I really liked having a big place for the rocks to sit, and I just felt like I could really expand it and I could really carve this area out and it could look pretty special, I think, like this. So I was thinking a lot about that. There was a bit of a glitch here though where I couldn't get rid of this place and I couldn't figure out why it was because it just didn't make sense to me. It's never happened before and it was just something completely different, and it's been a long time trying to do it, but I did do it in the end. What I did do as well is that bit as well. Oh, that was the glitchy bit. I remember now. So I couldn't actually get rid of that. I was trying, but it was not going very well. But anyway, I did get rid of it, so you'll see that. But anyway, so I was adding some plants to the area. I know that Hogwarts doesn't have many trees about, but you will see that this build does have trees around, and I don't know why that bit wasn't included, but that was the bit where I just kind of went a little bit merrily around and I just put loads of trees around because I just think it looks really beautiful like that. So I was happy with figuring that out. This bit was just kind of making sure that there were windows there and everything looked pretty nice. And then I was going around these areas, which you will see, and this was really where I started putting the pillars in and making it look a little bit less boxy on the basement floor and making it look a little bit more layered, and it looks very, very similar to how Hogwarts has it, or at least I think so. I mean, it's the similest that I could potentially get without downloading custom content or anything, so I was pretty happy with that. Another thing that I definitely need to mention is if you ever download any of my builds, you'll never ever find custom content in them because I don't use it. I love it, but I don't use it because I think that it's sometimes not fair to everybody. Like if you've got to go and then download more stuff, it's not great. So I try to use it as least as possible, as less as possible, yes. So you will see no custom content in Hogwarts whatsoever, as you won't in my other builds as well. Sorry if I'm talking a little bit strange tonight. It's currently 3 AM and I'm trying to record this because I won't be able to record on Saturday tomorrow. So yeah, if it's a little bit late, if I sound a little bit croaky, as I probably always do actually, I've been coming down with something recently and I've been recording the videos recently. So, I mean, my voice might be croaky at times, but we shall see. But yeah, anyway, I'm recording super late because I just won't get a chance tomorrow. I'll be out. So I wanted to get it out for everybody. I wanted you to see it. I was also just going around the last areas, adding the final bits and bobs, which were of course these little pillars. I was super happy with those. I also put a fountain there, but I'm not exactly sure when that arrived, if you'd have just kind of seen the dash of the fountain there. I'm not sure, but I did. I put a fountain where there's a pathway upstairs, which I'll show you in the interior actually, because I'll do some screenshots at the end of this and you'll see it. The interior screenshots as well, because I like to put some screenshots in my builds, at least I try to. But yeah, I was trying to make the rocks look a little bit bigger. I was trying to make them look like they were underwater, and I was trying to put some weeds in, which I thought looked really nice with this build. I know that Hogwarts itself is not covered in flowers whatsoever. In fact, it's really lacking on the flowers. But I just thought, because it's my build and because I love landscaping, I would still put a little bit in there, but not too much because of course it is Hogwarts. I want the whole gloomy look. But I thought if instead I put some weeds in, then it wouldn't look too bad. It wouldn't look too odd or anything. So I was pretty happy with that outcome. I was putting some rocks underneath here just to kind of blend the area in, and just some final bits and bobs downstairs there, which you'll see there's loads of weeds about, but I love that. I think it looks really nice with the mud there. I just really love that effect and I was pretty happy with it. So I was adding some more of these weeds round, and that was the end of the build. So I really, really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you all for part 2. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you all soon.